Well, hello, everybody. This is Mark Molnar from the Indiana Bond Bank again, welcoming you to another edition of the Indiana Bondcast, which is your favorite public finance podcast. Of all the public finance podcasts out there, this one is obviously the best. And we are here to talk about everything public finance related. And this series in particular is one of our favorites because it's about innovation in public finance and the ways that we help create new solutions. One of the ways we do that is with our Flipping Finance Challenge. We are joined here today by Travis Richards, the Executive Director of the Jay County Development Corporation. Do I have that right, Travis? And you are returning Flipping Finance Challenge community. Maybe we should start there. What does that even mean that you are a community participating in the Flipping Finance Challenge for folks who don't know?
So for us, it was, great experience because we were able to get some potential solutions to challenges that we've been dealing with for years. A lot of ours were pretty big and structural, things like youth opportunity, poor health outcomes, strategic planning. These are not things that happen overnight. You don't solve them overnight. But secondarily, it was a great way to build relationships across the state for us. So the first time we were apprehensive is probably not the right word before we came down for the first one, but we really had no idea what we were getting into. And we had a blast. We had a great time, met a lot of good people. And unfortunately, COVID kind of killed the plans that we were making. So when you all sent an email, I think the email came from Brian and said, we're opening it up to some former communities. We jumped. So we were glad to be able to come back and try it again and be able to follow through on some of those longer term things, like communicating with the teams even after the event and maybe even being a part of implementing the solutions.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, we're so glad you did come back because we did get that 2020 event was end of February of 2020. And then, who would have known, right? But one of the things we do get asked a lot by folks who participate is what happens to their ideas after, the event. What do the communities do with those ideas? And you touched on that a little bit. Maybe you mind expounding on kind of how you see, Jay County and your areas using some of the ideas that you received from the innovators.
Sure. So we had, a lot of our teams focused on the youth opportunities, youth leadership. And so the top two really had a lot to do with the schools and some other organizations and entities here around the county. There are bits and pieces of those that may need tweaked a little bit, but our intent is to go and walk these solutions around to some of the people that will help get them off the ground here, and we'll really kind of own them and run with them once we get them rolling. And, basically trumpet it, get their buy-in, see what we need to tweak a little bit to make it work better for them, and then keep rolling with it. And, I think I hit on this with you guys at one point, and I guess I touched on it in the beginning. Our challenges were not overnight challenges. So we kind of look at this process as being, it's iterative. You're going to work on a little bit over here, and then you're going to have to work a little bit over there. But the whole time you're moving forward, which is really what we're after. So I think long term, that's kind of our plan is let's just get the right people around the table, maybe bring the teams in to do a little more explanation with the local folks here and start rolling it out.
You guys do a really good job of that, because I see, just based on the number of teams that chose to work on your challenges, you found kind of this Goldilocks spot of not so difficult that it's, gosh, where do we even start, and not so easy that it's like black and white and teams can just solve it, send you a couple sentences and say, hey, dummy, have you really thought about this easy thing? You've got this kind of middle sweet spot of these are things that are decently difficult and also like have some kind of a hook or attraction, like the youth opportunities you talked about. I think a lot of our innovators said they saw themselves either coming from a community like that or in similar situations, and it resonated with them. And so maybe talk for other communities, just, how do you even look at the challenges or opportunities and figure out where to start as a community, or what types of challenges are great for an event like this?
So some of the challenges that we brought this year were the same challenges we brought 2 years ago. Things that obviously we've not solved in 2 years, but the process then I think was really helpful for us. You guys came in and we sat down for an afternoon and we listed every challenge we could think of.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how many we came to, but it was well over 100. And then everybody got, X number of these little colored dots, and we went and we put them on the posters where we had written all the challenges, and wherever we had the most dots, that was kind of where we centered, and those were the challenges we brought. And I think working through that process was really pretty eye-opening for our team. It really helped us settle on what those main challenges were, or what are the big ones for us.
Nice. I remember that very vividly. That was a fun day, and we just kept getting more and more easel pads of white paper around the room, and it's and to your credit, it didn't scare you. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, we're totally broken and we've got 115 things wrong with us. It was, these are all opportunities, right, to make Jay County a better place, and it's a matter of figuring out where to start and what to dig into. So, and again,
Well,
I think
honesty is a big part of that. You got to be honest with yourself, and so I think we were not afraid of that because we know who we are.
Yeah. You also do a really, really good job of adding humor to levity to the entire thing. And flipping finance is a little bit irreverent, I'd say. Probably takes on a little bit of my sense of humor, the bond bank sense of humor. But I get the sense even outside of that, you don't take yourselves too seriously. It's serious work. Well, everything we do in the public sector is serious work, but you don't take yourselves too seriously. And I love if you talk a little bit about kind of how you approach, whether it's leadership or talking about hard topics. You bring that sense of levity. I'd love to hear if that's intentional or that's just kind of part of your nature.
A little bit of both, I suppose.
Yeah.
I am father to 4, so dad jokes are in my blood these days. There's a rumor floating around that at some of the public meetings I attend, one of the reporters comes back chuckling a little bit about some of the stupid little witticisms or jokes
Yeah.
But part of it is when you make the conversation enjoyable or easier to relate to, people are more apt to get involved and then remember what you've talked about. And so, we feel that's a good way to relate to people. I think clearly it clicked with the innovators. We had quite a few teams work on our challenges. Lots of good feedback on our presentation. I would say that your event brings out the best in our comedic sense.
Good. Hey, we'll take it. We'll take it. You really leaned into the civic superhero theme you leaned into. For folks who didn't participate in Flipping Finance Challenge this year, they donned capes and disguises and alter egos to help present their challenges to our innovators. And really, I mean, it's easy to go up and say, hey, we got this challenge with XYZ, just like I could say, hey, the bond bank issues debt. It's a truthful statement, but really, add a little levity or a little humor, or for us, add a little bit of soul to it with, our job is to help escalate your mission, to help you realize your vision for your communities, put a little purpose behind it. I think it resonates a little bit differently. So you guys did a really nice job with that. What would you say? Go ahead. Yeah, please.
Not giving anything away. If we're ever allowed back, we have some ideas what we may do the next round.
No, all right. It's funny, we can get off on this tangent. We've heard from a couple of folks to keep the civic superheroes because as an evergreen theme. I don't know what your thoughts are on that on the spot, but they like the just kind of that theme of, hey, everybody's working together to bring their superpowers together for communities. And for those who are listening who have not done it before, we've historically, the first 4 years, have had a different theme every year. So apparently the civic superheroes kind of resonated with folks. What do you think? Keep, change? Can always come up with a new theme.
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, it is a good theme. I enjoyed it a lot. I don't know. I guess I'd love to know what other ideas you have up your sleeve.
Oh man, I don't know what you do, but yeah. Go through a lot of pieces, a lot of Post-it notes and scrap paper. Just, yeah, a lot of doodling. And to that end, what would you say to another community who, if we were to approach about Flipping Finance Challenge, or you were to go to a neighboring community and to say, hey, there's this innovation event where you can get ideas for projects. How would you sell the event to somebody else, or to an innovator? Maybe it's a high school student locally, or somebody's just looking to do some good for Indiana.
If you have any apprehension at all, I would just say do it. It really is it's a very straightforward, energetic event. I mean, if you're afraid you'll get caught up in the hustle and not know what to do, that's crazy talk. You'll figure it out. Everybody there is very good to each other. And you're going to walk away with relationships, friendships, and new perspectives. So I guess that would be my encouragement.
That's fantastic. Well said. Well said. Well, we appreciate you coming back, and I hear you're already sticking your name in the hat for maybe a three-peat. Is this the Jordan Bulls of the first, looking for the first three-peat here? So we have not had a three-time returning Flipping Finance Challenge community, and you heard it here first. Jay County is angling to be that first community. So persuade me. Any words of wisdom here?
We love to be guinea pigs, so just tell us to come back. We'll be there.
Oh man! Now, if Indiana had more communities, more counties, just more Travises and your team, I think we'd be in a better trajectory, or continue to move Indiana forward. It's fun because the best ideas sometimes come from folks who just aren't as close to the problem. And I think we've seen a lot of neat ideas and a lot of neat solutions. And we've talked about the next step would be kind of fun to bring some of those teams into Jay County and walk the streets, see what you see locally, and take a solution that looks good in a vacuum that they put on paper here in Indianapolis. And then, oh, okay, now I know what this really looks like, and maybe even continue to tweak the idea and make it better. So I hope we can do that at some point. I know we'll come out and visit, but just get the innovators out and visit. That'll be a ton of fun.
Yeah, that's definitely something we plan to do, and we're looking forward to it.
Nice. Well, hey, Travis, I appreciate your time and you're joining us here on the episode of the Indiana Bondcast, our Flipping Finance Challenge series with our communities. So Travis, thank you again. And who knows, maybe we'll see you in Flipping Finance Challenge 2023.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity.
Very good. Well, again, for the Indiana Bond Bank team as a whole, and again, for the rest of us, this is Mark Woolner signing off from another episode of the Indiana Bondcast. Take care. Hello again, this is Mark Woolner, the Executive Director of the Indiana Bond Bank, on another episode of the Indiana Bondcast. And we are continuing our series about Flipping Finance Challenge 2022, our Civic Superheroes Innovation Summit, a hackathon and design sprint. And today I am so excited to be joined by our friends at Jasper, who've come back for their second Flipping Finance Challenge and left with a whole slew of solutions. I've got Mayor Vonderheide, and Mayor, will you maybe introduce yourself and the team, and then we'll just jump right into your experience with FFC.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mark. Glad to be here. Dean Vonderheide, Mayor of Jasper. I'm in my fourth year, and just really tickled in the fact that the Indiana Bond Bank has allowed us to participate the last couple of years. But with me today, we have Tom Mormon, who is the Director of our Parks Department, Park and Recreation, and Renee Cabrick, who is in charge of our legal department. And Renee has her summer intern with her, who is for the second year. Actually, he worked with our other planning department last year and has come back to the legal department this year. So Julio, thanks for being with us.
I'm so glad he joined, because really, I mean, there really is the epitome of FFC, which is just connecting communities like yourself with fresh ideas and young folks. And maybe start there. It's been about a month since Flipping Finance Challenge. What have you been up to since then? Have you started continuing noodling on some of those solutions, started to think about how much you incorporate some of those ideas into your processes?
Well, we have, I think, Tom, I might let you kind of take and run with it, because one of those that we came out extremely excited about was with the Brookshire Golf Course and trying to re-energize that for the community. So Tom, you want to speak to that?
Sure thing. Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, Ruxer Golf Course is a golf course that we closed down a few years ago. A 9-hole executive golf course. Had some flooding issues with it, and had some taken time to get it opened up during the year. So financially, it seemed to make more sense to shut it down, and we were looking for a solution. What could we do with it? And per usual, Flipping Finance came up with some solutions, but as things move in the government world, it's step by step, and you can't just go right after it. So we have started enacting some of those things and taking tiny steps at a time here, but we are looking to get our first activity going over there in about a month, a few weeks, a month. So we're excited about that.
That is fantastic. Definitely one of the questions we get asked most by innovators, and it even came up at kickoff again this year after I think you had left, after you had presented and left, and we got questions from the innovators. One of them was, what happens to our ideas after we turn them in? And we tell them, communities, Mayor, I think you said it best, that you pull something from everybody. But I don't know if anybody wants to speak a little bit more to kind of what happens after Flipping Finance ends, because we know the process for you never stops.
Well, I'll be happy to comment on that. I think we have a great team internally, and we really do strive to try to come up with new and creative ideas for amenities in our community. But it never ceases to amaze me when we are involved in this Flipping Finance Challenge that every idea that is presented, whether we can use the entire idea or not, has some little tweak to it that gives us a new perspective on how to look at our challenges and how to develop solutions to those challenges. So I think from my perspective, at least, it's just such a valuable tool, valuable opportunity to get a new perspective, which always helps.
You know, one of the things that last year, not this past year, but the year before, that we had on the plate was dealing with the Spirit of Jasper train and tourism. Mm-hmm. And you know, we're to the point that this year, Tom and his department, we did a trial run with our train, and we're gonna run it to the city of Huntingburg this summer, and that's you know, a big part of how do you leverage the assets that we have, and thinking a little bit differently. And I think it took us a while. We had to work with some other partners in this to make it happen, but we were excited. 3 of us ended up on this pilot run, and we all came off that train with smiles, knowing that it's got a good future now.
That's amazing. I remember you bringing that challenge to last year's event, and
yeah,
you're right, Mayor. Like, if these were easy, simple, just takes one person to implement type challenges, they probably wouldn't be at Flipping Finance. Often these are sticky and complex, and there's 5 or 6 or 7 players, as Tom mentioned, to get things moving, which I think we enjoy, and I think the students and other innovators at FFC really enjoy. So yeah, appreciate that.
I think sometimes that we can get bogged down because we get an idea about what a solution ought to look like. And the Flipping Finance Challenge really gives us an opportunity to see what it looks like through other eyes. And a lot of times that is the key to finding the final solution.
Yeah,
absolutely agree with that. You get a little close to it sometimes, and then fresh set of eyes is always better.
What did you like from your winning solutions this year? You don't need to certainly go into detail, you're welcome to, but were there things that jumped out in terms of the approach the teams took, or the quality of the idea, something that jumped out and really brought those 2 top solutions to the forefront for you?
I would go to that Saturday, and we were all walking out, and Mayor said, "Well, what did you think?" I said, "I only have one word to say: amphitheater." That was an idea that came up that I don't know why we didn't come up with that either, but what a great idea. I said,
Wow.
all well worth it just for one idea, and there were multiple ideas to choose from, but one word was helpful.
I thought that we, over the past 2 years, have been more inclined or more drawn to the solutions that have taken a deeper dive into the solution that they're working on. We've had, a number, I'm not going to say there are any that I would consider inappropriate or bad, or I don't know what word to use. It's not that. It's just that you can tell there are some teams that have taken a really deep dive into the challenge and looked at it from all angles and come up with a pretty detailed solution, which if we're able to, if it covers all the bases, we can walk away with and begin, planning with. And to me, those are the most valuable solutions.
Yeah, and you can really tell as a team starts questioning us about the particular project, you can tell who becomes passionate. Oh, this is something I really want to work on. You can see it in how they come across, the follow-up questions. Those are extremely important to us.
That's great feedback. Renee, I think that's a really key point to pull out for folks listening. You were thinking about coming to Flipping Finance Challenge in the future, or have participated and want to come back. Jasper communities like Jasper who are participating are here because they are very invested, and you've spent a lot of time even coming in to prep. How do you frame the challenge? How do you ask the right question? How to lay out all the work you've already done and thought of on it, hours and hours and hours. And so you want that investment that you put in mirrored on the innovator side, really. And so kind of that you're that kind of gravity, or you gravitate toward quality solutions that have been really thought through that kind of mirror your investment in time. I think that's a really good learning point, because these are not things that you've just, oh, we should do something on the golf course. This is a challenge that's probably been around since it got decommissioned, right, Tom? And so you've probably thought about 5 or 6 or 7 or 24 different ideas. And now when you bring it to FFC, you're really expecting people to give kind of that same level of thought to it. Is that fair?
Yeah, Mark, I think it's important. That's a good point, because we don't want these teams to just regurgitate what we've told them.
Yeah.
We want them to be thinking creatively and outside the box and come to us with some kind of innovative solutions, better defining the problem so they can come up with better innovative solutions.
That's a really good point. And that's one thing I think we try to emphasize, could be better about emphasizing. Better to take a big leap, I think, and fall short. That's right. You can always take a wild idea and maybe tame it down than taking a very tame idea. It's sometimes hard to take a tame idea and add kind of a spark to it. So, we've always tried to encourage, hey, they've done kind of that, those low-hanging fruit has been tried and done and thought through, and you always do a very good job of presenting of here's what we thought of or tried, and asking folks to swim a little deeper into the deep end and try something different is great. One of the things would love somehow is to get folks involved with Jasper on an ongoing basis. I don't know if we can get teams out to you. I'd love, gosh, even thinking the kickoff, we've got good PowerPoint decks. So I'd love to have some kind of almost community walkthrough. We could say, there's the Du Bois County Museum. Here's where it is, or here's this intersection we're talking about. That's our challenge for Flipping Finance 2023 or beyond, is just kind of that boots on the ground where folks can see and breathe and smell and walk the community, and then really kind of be imbued with a better sense of what they're trying to solve. And putting you on the spot, I would love some ideas how to accomplish that.
Mark, we love hosting.
You want to host?
We love hosting people in our community. So if you want to bring your team or multiple innovators, whoever, we would love to host them and give them a tour of Jasper and show them our amenities and our challenges and let them see it firsthand.
That'd be fun, like a walking kickoff almost of
Sure.
here's challenge one and here's Frogger and here's, for the win and here's, that would be neat. Well, regionalized flipping finance challenge. Yeah, any final thoughts if there are other communities who are kind of on the fence about participating? Renee, you had some very kind things to say, but anything you'd say to your peers, your neighbors of certainly it's an investment of time. I know, and there's no kind of money at the back end from the bond bank. There's no grants attached to it. But as folks are considering whether or not to sit in your shoes, stand in your shoes for flipping finance in the future, anything you'd say to them?
Well, Mark,
I would just encourage them to jump in and see what other people think, because too many times we get locked in that this is our little world we live in and this is how we've been thinking, and we just need a little encouragement to think outside the box. So,
and Mark, I would say that the process is worth going through. We all have our own processes that we work through in our departments or in our communities, but this process works out exceptionally well. And if you get that one idea, well, that one idea is always worth something, right? So it works out great.
It's well worth the investment in time.
Absolutely.
We certainly don't take it lightly at the bond bank that you invite us in, whether it's virtually or like we're doing here, and you're sharing problems that are probably near and dear to your heart and maybe some soft spots or, points of contention in a community. And you're trusting us with those that will facilitate those in a manner that, tries to lift everybody up. And so we are very appreciative that you said yes once, you said yes twice. That means a lot to us. I think it tells us we got something going here with Flipping Finance Challenge, and hopefully on the right track. We're bringing the right types of people to you, and we'll continue to try to be better, whether it's through this relationship with FFC in the future, or we're able to work together on other projects. We just certainly appreciate the relationship and enjoy what we've developed over the last couple of years.
yeah, thank you. And we'll say yes the third time too.
Hey,
I would only add to that maybe as you're looking at innovators, because you're the Indiana Bond Bank and it's called the Flipping Financial Challenge, it tends to attract more kids that are involved in that finance world, accounting, which is very important. I mean, that's a big part of the battle for us from a municipal perspective, is figuring out how to solve a challenge with the funds that we have available or finding other funding opportunities. But there is still a need for those planning experts. And so I would encourage innovators who are involved in engineering and planning to also participate and team up with some of the financial innovators, so that you have, the full coverage of an issue with the teams that are involved.
I'm really so glad you said that, Renee. It's I know sometimes the name Flipping Finance and Bond Bank can be a little bit intimidating, especially if you are a urban planning, engineering, community development. But we have seen some of our best teams are really those combos of engineers, creatives, finance folks, accountants, and they've come together. I can think of 2 or 3 teams in particular that have come back year after year because they figured out where they're kind of overlapping Venn diagram circles, and they have very, very little shared space because they've got all these different coverage areas. And so I think we'll certainly think about ways to continue to encourage participation outside of traditional hard finance, so to speak. So thank you for that. And certainly if there's any local universities or folks we can come down to present to or talk to, certainly happy to do that, because I do think there's a benefit in having someone who lives in or near or is invested in your region to really be part of the solution process. So that's another area we can certainly be better at. I really appreciate your time today. I know you are busy running a community here, so I will let you go here. And just want to thank you again for your time today, for your time at Flipping Finance Challenge over the last couple of years. Sincerely, on behalf of the entire Bond Bank team and Treasurer Kelly Mitchell, just so thankful about your thoughtful approach and the relationship we've developed. And as things move on with your Flipping Finance solutions, we'd love to come down and help be part of the solution. And again, there's not much more to say other than thank you. Mayor, thanks to you and your team.
Thank you. Well, we're glad to have you come down and see some of the solutions implemented. So
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, on behalf of, again, City of Jasper and the Indiana Bond Bank team as a whole, this is Mark Woolner signing off for another episode of the Indiana Bondcast, your public finance podcast brought to you by the Indiana Bond Bank. Like, click, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And until next episode, this is Mark signing off. Well, hello again. This is Mark Woolner, Executive Director of the Indiana Bond Bank, for another episode of the Indiana Bondcast, continuing our series of episodes on the Flipping Finance Challenge. And so excited to sit down with Bondcast, friend, co-host, Shatrice Mosley Romero. Shatrice, welcome to a very different type of episode of the Bondcast.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. I've missed podcasts, so I'm always excited to do these.
That's right. So yeah, quick plug for the work that she and I have done. We did a 15-episode cybersecurity podcast that ran the course of 12 months, sometime in that 2 years of pandemic. You probably remember the exact dates better than I do, Shatrice, but
I don't know. Everything's blurry, 2020, 2021.
Right. That lost year. So go back on wherever you found this podcast. If you scroll back, there's a great series designed really for local governments, but anyone for cyber security tips and tricks. And maybe that pivots into Flipping Finance, because we this year had a track on cybersecurity, and Shatrice was our really a role that mostly communities have served, that problem owner of here's my big fuzzy challenge, and tossed it out to our innovators. And maybe just start there, Shatrice. How'd you get involved first of all, and what did you think of the experience?
I was like so excited when you contacted me and you were like, hey, so we're doing this Flipping Finance Challenge, which I already knew about at a high level from the time we worked on cyber, just because I knew that we had to kind of step away and get ahead on some things, because it's so much work that you guys put into organizing it and helping the innovators and so on. So I knew of it, and I've seen a couple of your other podcasts prior from prior years of the successes of it and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I was so excited when you I think you just like sent me a text and you're like, hey, on a bar napkin or a napkin that it was like, what do you think of doing a cyber track, for education? Because that was definitely the highlight of a lot of the things we discussed on the cyber podcast, right? Was just the education piece and at local government levels and what challenge that can be when you're dealing with local governments that can be very different from northern region of Indiana, central and southern, or a subdivision or a suburb, county, or local government versus a very rural one. And so to kind of be able to address this really complex issue in the challenge and just have some fresh eyes on it was just incredible and really something that I really valued and really look forward to do again.
Yeah. What were your expectations? Coming in, you had not been in the Flipping Finance Challenge before, and you did a great job framing your challenge. It wasn't a ones and zeros type of challenge. It really was that, hey, we got all these resources.
Yeah.
Our audience is super diverse and takes in information differently. How might we deliver that in the best way possible for the most uptake? Yeah. How did you find that the innovators, picked up on that concept and took it farther than maybe even you imagined?
Yeah, no, definitely. I would say, what did I expect walking in? I didn't know what to expect. I work a lot with academic institutions and on the Indiana Executive Council on Cybersecurity that I oversee as a cyber director of the state. And I kind of really just, you know, I was not sure if I was going to get a lot of like very young students who just were like, what is cybersecurity? Or I was going to get, you know, older students, or if was I going to get like professionals, you know, because, you know, you had told me like the diverse group of people come into this, right? And it was exactly what you said. It was a diverse group of people where I had, you know, I thought it was really cool. One of the groups was just like, they just were friends from working at the state, and none of them work at the state anymore, but they stayed friends and they just do this for fun every year, because they just feel like they enjoy just getting, you know, being able over a 2-week sprint, you know, be able to just kind of get into a problem and be able to provide solutions and ideas. And I just love that. Like I walked away thinking, if I was not the other side, this would be something I might consider doing as an innovator, because I do love going in and seeing these challenges, and because it's for local governments, right? You know, this is a good way of giving back to the community, and with, you know, very little, I think, time commitment in the sense of a longevity, right? But over a period of a weekend or over a period of 2 weeks, the way you guys made it this year, I thought it just hit the mark with regards to somebody who wants to, you know, be able to give an innovative idea and kind of embrace challenge and research it. And I was really impressed with the amount of questions I received throughout the 2 weeks, the creativity that I got as well, you know, really thinking outside the box. And I would say I think we got like 7 innovation teams, and every single one of them gave me something that I could take back, which I thought was not what I expected. You know, I really thought like, okay, there would be a couple clear, you know, people who got the challenge, and like, you know, and the other teams would like try, but they were all just, you know, A+ across the board. It was actually very hard to choose a winner for sure.
I remember you saying that, very hard to choose. And you did a really nice job lifting everyone up at the, just so happened there was an executive council on cybersecurity meeting probably a week or 2 right after our event wrapped.
Yeah.
To have you say a few words about, you know, them, and I know you'll be presenting certificates to the teams that worked on your challenges. That was, I think, really nice for folks, because there are winners, you know, there are folks who win the top 2 prizes, but ultimately what we hope is they get a great experience, are more excited about cybersecurity, and you get ideas. And sounds like we hit the mark on those.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree. And I think giving people, you know, acknowledgement of them just attempting to do this, right, and putting some time and effort into giving back to their local communities, I think is always something that, you know, if I could give money along with every certificate, I would, but, you know, work for the state. So
That's right. That's right. But yeah, folks win just by showing up. That's what we've told people. Like, this is a great environment. You really can't fail, you know, to come in, ask good questions, be curious, learn, and inevitably you'll have a different life experience or background or perspective that leads to the spark of creativity that maybe you and I, just having been embedded in this world, don't always see. So that's,
yeah, I would say I'm most certainly so close to the problem of how do we communicate this, right? I live and breathe it every day. So having a fresh set of many eyes, you know, 7 teams, was just really invaluable to me, in the sense of just even getting me to kind of think through things differently, right? And I always value that. I want people to ask questions where I'm like, you know what, that is a good question, or you know what, that I don't have that problem data set to be able to do that research, but that might be something I could consider doing over this next year. So it gives me the ability to kind of think outside the box, as much as I want to. Sometimes you're too close to the problem.
That's fantastic. And then maybe let's tease 2023. We'd love to have you back, because cyber is a huge elephant to eat, and communication is one aspect of it. Are there areas you would think, as we look ahead 8, 10, 12 months, like what folks might expect? Should they expect to see cybersecurity next year? And if so, like what types of challenges would you be thinking about?
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the things I thought of, I mean, I think the educational side of things is one set of consistent issues that we can always bring back up, right? But I also would like to talk about maybe next year to kind of throw something in there in the sense of, how can we creatively, you know, put together a tabletop or something engaging, or something that can be just out of the box for a local government to use, that would, like, you know, hit the mark. So as far as, how do people engage people without spending over a lot of time? Because that's the problem with local governments, right? Is that they're under-resourced, understaffed, expected to be practiced in this area. And even though they may have really amazing emergency managers in their their municipality or in their government or their county government, I mean, those people, those people have so much on their plate. So how can we lessen that load, so that we can better support the bigger picture, which is how do we get every department, every area of a municipality involved in cybersecurity, response and recovery and planning and, identifying this problem. So I don't know, I'm thinking kind of maybe on the response side, of practice, might be a good way. So.
That'd be really exciting. I think you're right. Communication is always an evergreen. You could roll that out every year and it could evolve. And also the response side, I love what you said about it's everybody. It's not, there's not one person, one department, one individual, and getting that mindset shift, right? Of like, how do you get everybody to realize that whether I'm in the controller's office or I don't know, Department of Public Works or the library
Right.
director, like we've all got to take responsibility because you get the ransomware, and this is where it comes back to public finance certainly submarine a local unit of government really quickly.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. People, no local government is going to go out of business, but it can most certainly be hurting for money to not be able to pay for the other critical things for that local government. Right. So there is kind of a, unfortunately, a lot of businesses that are hit with ransomware attack don't survive it. They go under. For local government, we have the requirement as government to provide certain services to our citizens. The problem with a ransomware attack on a local government is it takes away from those services one way or another, right? There's only so much money in a pot, and if you're having to spend all that money plus some, right, to deal with the ransomware attack, or a denial of service attack or an email compromise, and it's just totally just cleaned out your system. There is no ransomware. You're done. Then that, people are like, well, that's an IT problem. No, it's an operations problem. It's a service problem, because anything you have to devote over here gets taken away from other critical things that your organization, your local government wants to focus on. So no, most certainly it's a problem where everybody's affected if that hits a local government, and they are. It is hitting local governments very hard right now. So our hope is that, through our education efforts, through a lot of the good ideas we got from the Flipping Finance Challenge this year, and hopefully maybe some good stuff we get next year, we just continue just chipping away at at that really big, complex operational problem of cybersecurity. So.
Well said. I'm so glad the state has a cybersecurity program director with just the vision and the foresight. And it's been fantastic to continue to work with you and just watch how you lead and navigate with such a large Indiana Executive Council on cybersecurity. Everybody in there for the right reasons. It's just a lot of oars to pull in the right direction, in the same direction. You do a great job of captaining that boat. So kudos, Shatrice. Thanks for taking time out of what's an incredibly busy schedule to be part of Flipping Finance Challenge, to do this wrap up with us. And maybe I'll leave you with just the opportunity, if folks want to learn more about the state's efforts on cybersecurity, where should they go? Give us a website, contact information, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So in.gov/cybersecurity, best place to go to for all your resources, information on the council, information on incident reporting. It's a great resource for other people. We link to other people's websites. So including our USDHS Homeland Security, CISA websites and just partner websites like yourself, right? So we're more than happy to answer any questions. And so my information's on the website as well. And I am most certainly here to serve in any way I can.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again, Shatrice.
No, thank you.
Indiana Bondcast. This is Mark Woolner saying thanks for listening, and we'll see you again on the next episode of the Bondcast. Click subscribe, like, wherever you get your podcasts, you can find us. And until next time, take care and talk soon. Hey, this is Mark Wallner, the Executive Director of the Indiana Bond Bank, welcoming you to another episode of the Indiana Bond Cast. And we continue our series of interviews with Flipping Finance Challenge owners. And oftentimes those are communities. This time, I think you'll be excited. We've got John Righeimer, the president of Maverick Energy Consulting. I think, John, you started Maverick Energy and it's been over what, 20 years? And then
almost 22 years.
wow, that's amazing. You may think it's, as a listener, where's the fit? But John's company spends a lot of time consulting on natural gas and energy needs, particularly in the schools, a lot in the school space, at least in Indiana, working with school districts on, think about all the fuel consumption that they have. And gosh, before I started the bond bank, John's probably worked with us for almost a decade in contemplating, crafting what ultimately became our fuel budgeting program, which started in 2014. And that's how I got to know John, kind of came in, learned about the program, and we've been working well together ever since. And so, gosh, John, you were when we started Flipping Finance Challenge in 2018, our inaugural event, you immediately jumped on as a sponsor and have sponsored ever since. This year, you took the added leap and became one of our challenge owners. You brought the fuel budgeting program under the microscope. So maybe start there. Like, what's your experience been with the event, and how is it different going into this year?
Yeah, you bet. Well, thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure to talk to you and talk about Flipping Finance. Yeah, I think it's a good point to say that we jumped on it right away as sponsors, many years ago, whenever it first started. And I just thought it was unique. It was interesting to see, because you don't expect that coming from it didn't seem government-like, right? It just seemed more like Silicon Valley, I guess, that'd be a term I'd put towards it. Very, so I thought this is kind of cool. I just kind of appreciate the effort on the bond bank's side to do it. And then when you asked me to, so that was a few years we were sponsored since the beginning. And then this past year, you asked us to be a challenge owner, presenter. And yeah, we are, we're Maverick Energy Consulting. We're a private company, but, the majority of our business, I'd say probably 70% of our business is governmental schools in primarily Indiana from that standpoint. So we're just like an arm's length away from being in the government, being like, I don't want to say being like the government, but we work with government. We appreciate it. We understand what, I guess, where I'd like to just start off with my impression was, I was blown away. I was kind of expecting it to be a certain way and be positive about it, but it even exceeded my expectations of what it really was. There was just how do I say this? There was a buzz in that museum, right from the get-go. You could just feel it. And I think, the atmosphere was great for it. But I think that buzz is coming from the folks that are there, not necessarily me, per se, but the people taking on the challenges. And I thought it was very inspiring too. As I age, in life, you sometimes have concerns about what the future is going to look like and what the younger generations will be like. And if anybody has doubts about our future and the intelligence and the passion that's there, this is an event that would demonstrate that. I think our future is going to be in good hands. I know that sounds corny, but that's kind of how I felt, when I was there. But just a buzz of energy, enthusiasm. They were all excited, and I was just so impressed with. Well, they were all younger than me. I think most of them were college folks, maybe some recently graduated from college. But boy, just the intelligent and mature and thoughtful questions they had. It was very inspiring from that standpoint. So I guess I don't want to belabor that point, but I was very, very impressed with that. I walked away inspired to try to match that enthusiasm that they have.
I appreciate that. Yeah, we do. I've heard that a couple of times, the energy of the event, and I wish I could put my finger on what the secret sauce is for that, because the energy it is always buzzy. And I'm so glad you got to be there and really got to be there face to face. And, I'm curious, you had probably one of the more complex, difficult to explain challenge. A fuel budgeting tool, a hedge program, a risk management tool, however you want to describe it. Very difficult to describe that encapsulated in like a 10-minute, really you pitching to them about, hey, why is this important, and come work on my stuff. Tell us about kind of the, and yet you still got a lot of people coming to you with questions. I'm curious, like when you talk to folks, what resonated with them, or kind of how where they see themselves in your challenge.
Yeah, you're right. It was very, our challenge, if you will, and product service, very abstract, especially compared to the other challengers, which is, I would say, more concrete.
Yeah.
It's like a known budget and there's things like that. So I was worried. I was nervous that maybe, you don't want to be the challenge that gets nobody showing up at your table. So we met that bar though. We had really bright people come, and I don't know if for certain, I guess I never asked, I should have asked that question, what drew them to us. But my impression when you asked that question, why I think they came to us, I think those that came to us, I didn't have to explain to them too long, this is abstract. They saw it for that. And I think they liked that it was like, how do we polish this idea and make it better? So a lot of them seem to have like a financing type major or something to it. So I think that drew them, to it as well. And I think, all of them that participated was, part of me didn't want to tell them too much. I wanted to tell them enough to have them understand. I wanted to answer their questions. My fear was that I would taint their thinking. And the thing that most attracted me to, like, well, what solutions they come up with is their naivety, is their freshness, is to come at it from a completely different angle. And I think they did do that. I think the winner especially, it wasn't even them. All of them kind of had that a bent to it. I come from a generation which, I'm here talking on Zoom, so I understand that. But they brought that perspective of a generation that is right, wrong, or indifferent, doing almost everything online. Use online generically, through the phone and so forth. So they brought that perspective of, how to communicate better from that standpoint, which, is still debatable. Is that the way we market our program? Because our program's somewhat limited. If our program was national, boy, some of those things of how, you got to get on that online presence. So I think I went off on a tangent.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, but the fact that you were open to different ideas, new ways of doing things, you kind of re-referenced, John, a little bit like that curse of knowledge. Like, we're all so deep in it. Bond Bank's deep in it because we administer the program. And sometimes you think about, gosh, right, we thought of or tried that 6 years ago. And then you start to kind of mentally discard some ideas or block yourself from accepting other ideas. And I think your attitude of, let's give them kind of the fundamentals of how it works, so people don't kind of get off into, somewhere where it's just a misunderstanding of the program, but you also left a lot of blue sky for people to kind of dabble in, which I think probably is reflective of what you received in terms of solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to go back again and compliment all of them. They are all very, for the age that they are. I don't remember being that mature, if you will, at that age. And that was very impressive too. The follow-up they had, and some were better than others in it. But it was just, I mean, they certainly, somebody's gonna be very fortunate to hire them, down the road when they get there. They're gonna be a very quick learner. And so I guess I'm also impressed that they were much farther ahead than I was when I was 22 or whatever age they are.
Yeah. And for them, it's a great introduction to maybe a business sector they didn't know existed right beforehand. I mean, what you do, very specialized, and yet you can see the direct impact. We see it every year with the schools who participate in the program. There's a direct fiscal impact to kind of being aware of your commodities use as a school, and how it can affect the ability to use dollars for kind of those core purposes of educating students, paying teachers, if you're spending less money on the fuel side of things. So I think I didn't know about that until I started here. So those innovators who talked to you, I think, if nothing else, walked away with an understanding of, like, there's jobs out there for everything. And this is another one of those sectors, right? So
Yeah, I would imagine that all the challenges provide that for in some shape or form to these young adults, in that, they're all looking, who knows what their future holds. I'm sure a lot of them will start companies at some point, but they're probably looking, this gives them that taste of, dare I say, the real world. I mean, they're all coming from a college background, and I think that's another inherent, obviously, value. There's the winners of these challenges, right? But I think everybody wins that's participating because of the exposure they get, and they may be using it as a resume builder, but I think the most important thing they get out of it, or the most valuable thing they get out of it, is the actual doing, being there, seeing that energy, applying what they've learned in school. Because you could tell a lot of them are coming at it with a business case study.
oh yeah.
I'm sure they're drilled into that, in class. And so I could see that, but they knew this was real world problems. Not that those case studies aren't real world problems they're working on, but they're kind of, some of them are dated, and they're, Harvard Business Review and things like that. This is just, somewhere in Indiana, there's a business challenge. And I think that was also exciting. I could see their excitement, I think, with that localness of it.
Yeah, that is really exciting. I like you also, kind of unique to some of what the other folks did. You had one challenge. It's the program, and you created multiple points of entry. So ultimately, it's like all going toward furthering the same thing, but you articulated kind of a process improvement, program improvement. How do we continue to deliver more value to the program, whether that's shortening process time, cutting down, right, making it more efficient, or upping the benefit. And then that appeals to some minds. And then the other side, it was kind of that, I think you referenced it, kind of a communication, marketing, brand awareness, program awareness, like that's a whole other thing. And ultimately you kind of I like what you did. You gave people different ways to attack and lean into their own skills. So I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, but I want to make reference to that.
I think you're right, Mark. And going back to, and you and Brian helped a little bit on the challenge, but I think what I liked that there was those two choices, because I was concerned from the get-go that the marketing piece, which is the more abstract piece, would fall flat. That would get no. And I thought, well, as long as we have that process left brain portion to it, and they could segregate that out if they wanted to, that should attract somebody.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, nobody submitted a process only proposal. We had one that was a combo, and the remaining ones were all on the marketing piece. So that kind of surprised me. I thought about that, because I didn't expect that. I would expect the complete opposite of it. Now I'm very right brain, so maybe that's maybe my presentation, and when they sat down with me, that sort of, like minds kind of attract like minds. That could
interesting
fit a little bit, because there was people that sat down at the table that didn't. So they were probably the left brain people that said, we think this left brain portion is a joke, and this guy's a joke, and we're moving on.
Yeah.
But I was just surprised by that because I was worried that the marketing side is so, it's like I keep saying, it's so abstract, it's so soft, and a fresh perspective is good, but unless you're actually doing that, sometimes I don't know if you get that at the college experience so much. I think college business stuff is very more structured traditionally for that left brain, problem solution type thing. But I will say, I know we're getting off a tangent. I am noticing that there's more and more. I think IU has a sales track, if you will. So I think you're seeing more and more of that right brain business stuff that maybe is leaking in, and maybe that was, why more we're attracted to that I didn't think would be.
Well, John, I just want to thank you again for saying yes to, putting the field budgeting program under the microscope for our innovators, for being open to these solutions. I'd love to find a way to maybe take what they built, and even, I don't know if we offer it again in next year or a future year, or find a way, because I think there's a lot of value in, even on the abstract, complicated program, having an extra set of eyes come in and take a look at it. And if nothing else, would love to have you as a sponsor again in 2023. So,
well, you can count on us, knock on wood, you can count on us to be a sponsor next year. we don't have to overwork it. Love to find a way to be involved in person again. Maybe we can do that sales track. That got a little sidetracked. Maybe we can try that again, because I'd love to be, I don't want to barge my way in, but I would love to be a part of it again. I thought it was, was very impressed. Would love to be for sure a sponsor. And if there's a way to be involved, that's of value to you and the whole group there, then I'm there. I would love to do it.
Yeah. And for our audience, what John's referencing, this year we added, in addition to that, hey, pair students and innovators with communities to work on real problems. We added, just delivered almost 10 hours of additional content to innovators of, ideation, innovation. We had John teed up for sales, and the timing just kind of didn't work. And really, everything is selling, whether you're pitching an idea or it's, a hard sales job. And it's a lot of space a lot of people are not comfortable with until you realize, whether you're at home, talking to your spouse, or in an office environment, trying to get an idea moved forward. Ultimately, everything's kind of persuasion and sales. And I think John would love to have you have a chance to get in front of our innovators next year and kind of talk them through, how to sell when you hate selling, right?
Yeah, well, if it makes sense, we'll give it a try again. And
Yeah.
maybe I'm not a challenge presenter, and we can focus, or I can focus my energy on how to get people into the room. So I think where mine fell flat was, I love talking to you here, Mark, so don't get me wrong. I'm just not a big Zoom.
Right.
I think what I wanted to accomplish with the sales discussion was truly just a sit down, cup of coffee, no notes, no presentation, and let's just talk selling. That was kind of like my vision of it. And that just wouldn't come across, I think, well, in a Zoom presentation. It was more, as I like to say, selling is belly to belly. I wanted to have that conversation, belly to belly. So we'll maybe give it a try next year. And if it falls flat next year, then I think the people have spoken, and I'll bow out. I'll understand. I won't take offense. I'll take a little offense, but not a lot.
That's fantastic. Let's do it. I love, we're already getting 2023 structured. This is good. So we'll get, we'll get additional content. John, as always, I really appreciate, the time here, the conversation. And I think it adds a lot really of perspective, and helps others who are not traditional cities and towns, communities, think about ways they might get involved with Flipping Finance Challenge as well. So thank you for opening those doors for us.
Oh, you bet. It's been an honor and pleasure being associated. Thanks for reaching out and having me be a part of it.
Yeah, no doubt. And so on behalf of the Indiana Bond Bank, our entire team, I want to say thank you for listening to another episode of the Indiana Bond Cast, and our Flipping Finance Challenge series continues on. This is Mark Wollner signing off. Please like, subscribe, listen to this podcast on any of your favorite podcast platforms. And until next time, talk soon and take care.